What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and I'm joined by Tyler, and we are back for another video on our Avengers Endgame community series, a community series that airs every single week, every single Thursday leading up to Avengers Endgame, releasing in theaters on April 26th. We have videos talking all about the movie, discussions, theories, anything else Tyler and I come up with leading up to the movie releasing, and then when the movie does release, we'll have loads of videos talking about the movie, talking about the Marvel Universe after the film, and so many more things. So, we started this last week. We talked about Brie Larson, and we're going to kind of double back on that a little bit today. We're going to talk a little bit about that, but we want to have the central discussion be, will Avengers Endgame be better than Avengers Infinity War? So, last year, Avengers Infinity War obviously came out. We did this community series, and it was such an event. I like to call it an event because we all go there together, right? And as a group, in whatever select theater you went to see this film, you were there with them, and we were all a part of something when we saw that film. It was really the bringing together of so many things that a lot of people talked about even last year. Could they ever do that again? Like, this is the last time we're ever going to get something like this, and Endgame can be a part of that for sure as well. Is this ever going to happen again? And the answer, I personally believe, is no, because of how big an event this is, and just everything that's kind of come together to make it what it was. But in my opinion, Infinity War was a phenomenal movie. Tyler loved it as well, and he'll tell you what he thinks. But when it comes to how I think the best movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that was Endgame. Following it up, we're not going to get a lot of information from Endgame. We've gotten a couple trailers, a couple TV spots, and they basically are TV spots because they're so short and there's really nothing shown in them. So we're going to go into this movie pretty much, not knowing much about this film. So Tyler, do you think Endgame is going to actually be better than Infinity War?
I don't know. I want to say yes. I do, and I don't want anybody to think like we're like negative on Endgame or whatever, because trust me, we're not. I cannot wait for this movie to come out. I absolutely love the Marvel movies. I've gone to every Marvel movie. I love almost all of them, and I really loved Avengers Infinity War. That was truly an event, like a cinematic event. I don't even really see that as a movie. It was when you see everybody fighting. I mean, we've never seen anything like that ever before in comic book movies, or really any type of movie. Bring all them together, the fighting, the effect, everything was amazing. It really was. So I'm pumped, absolutely pumped for Endgame. But I don't know. Can you catch lightning in a bottle twice? I don't know. I said to Alex before we started filming, if anybody can do it, it probably is Marvel. But there's a few things that we have to look at when we're talking about, is Endgame, is it possible for Endgame to be better than Infinity War? And this is why I have a question. And the biggest thing, really, is Captain Marvel. And it's not about Brie Larson, really, or it could really be any character. They could have introduced Silver Surfer. The character part, it just happens to be Captain Marvel. That part doesn't matter. What matters, though, is, and we said this in the previous video, what matters is all of these characters have gone through so much already. Then at the end of Infinity War, now half the population of the entire universe is gone. So friends, family, gone. Captain Marvel comes, she comes down to Earth, and she wasn't there for that. She's not friends with any of the Avengers. She doesn't know any of these people. So you have somebody who is kind of like outside that circle, that is entering that circle, and is expected to understand what everybody's going through. And I think that's just going to be a very hard dynamic to see, interacting. Now, Alex and I were talking about how, in Civil War, they introduced Spider-Man and they introduced Black Panther. So Black Panther's issue, obviously, in Civil War was that he wanted revenge for his father. Captain America was kind of stopping him, so therefore Black Panther must fight Captain America to be able to get revenge for his father and get Bucky. But then Black Panther realizes, oh, Captain America was right. I was wrong. And then so then obviously he's okay with Captain America and brings him in because he's a fugitive and helps Bucky get an arm and all that stuff. So there was mini character development. There was like a small relationship that happened there because there was that conflict between them. Now, again, obviously we don't know what's going to happen in Endgame, but I feel like that's so different to what might happen with Captain Marvel. There's not going to probably be conflict with Captain Marvel when she shows up. And the reason I'm saying that is you look at her costume, red, blue, with the gold, like she doesn't look threatening. So she's going to come, where Black Panther, all black, you can't see his face, so he could be threatening looking. Captain Marvel, blonde, pretty, the costume color is bright. So it's kind of like she comes down and no one's going to be like, are you one of Thanos' people and I'm going to attack you? So there's not going to be that kind of dynamic. So it's kind of like, well, what's the dynamic going to be where these characters have to interact with each other? They don't necessarily have to like each other, but they have to work together, and it's confusing on how they're going to do that. I feel like if anything doesn't work in the movie, it would be the whole Captain Marvel aspect. Everything else, I think, will work just fine. And one of the things too is that they're hyping up Captain Marvel to be so powerful that they're making it sound like if she just goes up to Thanos and punches him in the face, she'll kill him. And I don't think that will happen. I really don't. So it's kind of like, is she going to have to get a power nerf, or is she not going to get a power nerf and she really isn't all that powerful, or Thanos is just extremely powerful? Then they have to explain why Thanos is extremely powerful. So it's kind of, I hope that you understand what I'm saying. It's kind of like they've almost written themselves into a corner that, again, they totally could get out of. It'll be interesting to see how they get out of it, and they could do it just fine. That's just my concerns, where it's like, well, what happens if they don't? If they can't kind of get out of that, and they have to come up with a reason why Captain Marvel can't really go toe-to-toe with Thanos, does that affect the story? Does that affect the movie? Where when we compare it to Infinity War, really, we saw everybody try to go up to Thanos and fight him, and nobody was any match for him. Thor comes down, and he gets him right in the chest. I mean, that should have killed the guy. He couldn't even do it. And the whole movie, Thor's trying to get this new, strong, powerful weapon to kill Thanos, and even he fails. And then, of course, Thanos says, you should have gone for the head. So it's kind of like, are they going to do that again with Captain Marvel? And just, if they did, I feel like it takes away from Endgame. I really do, because then it's too similar to Infinity War. So I guess I hope that you guys see what I'm saying about the difference between Infinity War and Endgame. Infinity War was truly a cinematic event. It was absolutely amazing to see the display of all these characters, of all of the powers. But now we're going to have Endgame, and it's going to be way more somber. Everyone's going to be depressed. It's going to it's going to really be a movie of like, how do we pick ourselves up? How do we fix this? And how do we fix this and then deal with it? And it doesn't, whatever the consequences are, we have to do it, which is actually in the synopsis. Whatever they do, there's going to be a cost, and they're willing to do that. So it's going to be interesting to see. So it's going to be, it'll be a cinematic event, but it'll be a very different cinematic event. I don't think Infinity War and Endgame will be similar at all, really. I believe that is why. Because remember, it was supposed to be Infinity War Part 1 and Infinity War Part 2, and they separated it because they said, no, they're very different movies, and I do feel like they will be very different movies. So, having said that, because they're very different movies, even though it is a direct sequel, it is kind of like, well, one is going to stand out more than the other. And that happens with a lot of these type of franchise movies where it's like, yeah, one was amazing, and then the next one comes out, and it could have continued it, but it did something different, and it just something about it wasn't as good. If you're into Pirates of the Caribbean, it's sort of like Dead Man's Chest and At World's End, both fantastic movies, but sometimes certain scenes from those two movies stand out more than the other. So it will be very interesting to see, because I'll be watching, I'm sure everybody watching this is, I'll be watching Infinity War and probably other movies right before that, but Infinity War literally the night before Endgame. So it'll be very interesting to see how different these two movies really are.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think, these two movies, like you said, are very, very different. And the thing that's important to note with Endgame is, and like Tyler said, it's going to have different notes that it's going to hit. And it's going to have different things that it's going to have to overcome. The Brie Larson, the Captain Marvel thing, introducing a new character into this world and having it be, from what we've seen in the trailers, it's a very different atmosphere and mood from Infinity War. Now, another thing, too, is how this movie is going to end. Because while I feel like Infinity War was such an event, and from start to finish, it did so many things. Okay, it took us in a lot of different places, and it took us on a journey of really Thanos becoming so powerful, and obviously ending with how it ended. Endgame, it doesn't really matter what the movie is going to be for the first half, but that ending, I have a feeling, the last hour is going to be something that we've never seen before, literally ever. Okay, and that's comparing it to Infinity War as well. So while I feel like, and I'm basically trying to answer the question, okay, will Endgame be better than Infinity War? I feel like overall, especially the first half, I feel like it won't be better than Infinity War. But I feel like because of what they're going to have to do in that movie with saying goodbye to characters and really pushing the Marvel Universe onto the next chapter, we'll have Spider-Man right after that. But with a lot of these characters, we're going to be saying goodbye. We're going to be saying hello to new relationships and kind of branching off. So they're going to have to do a lot of things that are going to be really, really awesome. And they're going to have chances to do some really amazing things with the characters, with the ending, with how they handle Thanos, with what they're going to do with Tony Stark, which we're going to make a video and talk about, with what they're going to do with Captain America. They're going to have all of these amazing things that they can do that is, I think, going to make this movie a masterpiece and could make it better than Infinity War. The first part of this movie, however, I don't think is going to reach the levels that Infinity War kept, because Infinity War kept a very high bar throughout the entire film. And also, there are places for missteps for Avengers Endgame, just like I guess you could say there were for Infinity War. When we were going into Infinity War, there were issues. We were talking, Tyler and I made a video talking about how are they going to share screen time. That kind of the same thing is actually going to apply to Endgame, but now we have a brand new character. We only get to see her one time in her own standalone movie. She gets added, so there's going to be room for mistakes that they could also make in Endgame as well. So we'll have to see the overall package. I have a feeling, like I said, the ending of Endgame may push it over the top, may make it better than Infinity War, but it's going to be hard to duplicate the event and all of us going into Infinity War kind of knowing that this joyous ride of the Avengers was coming to an end with Thanos and kind of the dread we were all feeling. It's going to be hard to capture that atmosphere of the moviegoers again. But I feel like, like Tyler said, if anybody can do it, it's the Russo brothers. If anybody can do it, it's Marvel. So we'll just have to wait and see. So let us know in the comments below, guys. Which movie do you think is going to end up being better, Endgame or Infinity War? Let us know. Make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel, Podcast Now. Hit the bell icon so you guys are notified when all of our videos go up. These community series videos go up every single Thursday on our channel leading up to Avengers Endgame releasing on April 26th. We appreciate you guys watching, and we hope to see you on next week's video.